If you've been anywhere near Netflix lately, you've probably seen the buzz about a new series adaptation of Charles Burns' graphic novel Black Hole. And honestly, the hype is absolutely real because this is one of the most acclaimed, award-winning graphic novels of the past 2 decades, finally making its way to your screen. The fans are losing their minds over it, and personally, I understand the excitement. In this video, I'll try to break down everything you need to know about why this matters and what we can expect from the series. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, let's begin. Netflix finally lands Black Hole. The big news dropped in late October 2025, when it was revealed that Netflix has officially ordered a straight-to-series adaptation of Black Hole, after what was apparently a pretty competitive bidding war. This is huge because Hollywood has been trying to adapt this graphic novel for literally 20 years, and it's never happened. But now Netflix has swooped in, partnered with New Regency and Plan B Entertainment as co-producers, and given it the green light. Jane Schoenbrunn is set to write and direct the entire series. If you've seen I Saw the TV Glow or We're All Going to the World's Fair, you know exactly why this is the perfect match. Schoenbrunn has this incredible ability to blend psychological horror with coming-of-age stories, exploring themes of identity, dysphoria, and alienation in ways that feel both deeply personal and universally relatable. This is exactly the kind of sensibility Black Hole needs. The series is going to be a 1-hour drama, and this marks Schoenbrunn's first foray into television. They actually teased the project on Twitter just before the announcement, saying they'd been cooking up a big secret project for a long time. The executive production team includes Burns himself, along with Aaron Levy, Plan B, and several folks from New Regency, so it's in really good hands. What's the story all about? The Netflix logline gives us this setup. There's a seemingly perfect small town called Roosevelt, where an old legend haunts the teenagers. The myth says that if you have sex too young, you'll contract the bug, a virus that literally transforms you into a monster from your worst nightmares. Sounds absurd, right? That's what Chris, our main character, always thought, but after one reckless night at the beginning of her senior year, she discovers she's infected. Now she's cast out to the woods to live with the other infected teens, and things get even darker when a serial killer starts hunting them one by one. But Black Hole isn't really about the plague itself. Burns has said that the mutations are a physical manifestation of whatever's going on internally. This is a story about what it feels like to be a teenager, the alienation, the cruelty, the anxiety, the desperate longing to escape your own skin. It's about how adolescence can make you feel like a monster, like you don't fit in, like something is fundamentally wrong with your body. The legacy of the graphic novel. Let's rewind and talk about the source material because Black Hole is legitimately one of the most important graphic novels of the 21st century. Charles Burns originally published it as a 12-issue comic book series between 1995 and 2005. Yes, it took him a full decade to complete. The first 4 issues came out through Kitchen Sink Press before they went out of business. Then Fantagraphics picked it up and published the remaining 8 issues. In 2005, Pantheon Books released the collected edition as a complete graphic novel, and it immediately swept the major comic awards. We're talking the Eisner Award, Harvey Award, and Ignatz Award, basically the triple crown of graphic novel recognition. Critics absolutely went wild for it. Time magazine called it one of the most stunning graphic novels yet published, and the best graphic novel of the year. It became required reading in alternative comic circles and continues to show up on best of lists even today. Burns' unique art style and themes. What makes Black Hole so special is Charles Burns' absolutely distinctive art style. The entire graphic novel is done in stark black and white, with no shades of gray whatsoever. Burns draws heavily from 1950s EC comic artists, like those who worked on Tales from the Crypt, using crisp, precise line work and meticulous brushwork. But he took that clean, almost wholesome aesthetic and twisted it into something deeply unsettling. His use of solid black as a design element creates these incredible contrasts, and the way he feathers the edge of black sections or adds subtle shading to faces is just masterful. Burns grew up in Seattle in the 1970s, and Black Hole is set in that exact time and place, the suburban Seattle area during the mid-1970s. The setting is crucial because it captures this weird transitional moment in American culture when it wasn't exactly cool to be a hippie anymore, but Bowie was still just a little too weird. The AIDS metaphor and cultural resonance. Now, you can't talk about Black Hole without addressing the elephant in the room. This is very clearly a metaphor for the AIDS crisis. Burns started developing these ideas in the late 1980s. There's actually an early 4-page version called Teen Plague that appeared in Raw magazine in 1989. The series was written and published throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, when HIV/AIDS was still very much at the forefront of American consciousness, particularly around issues of sexuality, shame, and social ostracization. The parallels are unmistakable. The bug is a sexually transmitted disease that causes visible physical deformities, turning infected teenagers into social outcasts. Those who catch it are driven from their communities, forced to live in the woods like lepers, while their peers treat them with savage cruelty. But what's particularly powerful and controversial is that Burns relocated this metaphor from the gay community, where AIDS panic was most concentrated, to a predominantly straight white middle-class suburban setting. It's a brilliant subversion that makes the horror hit even closer to home. The characters: Keith, Chris, and Rob. At the heart of Black Hole are several key characters whose lives intertwine around the plague. The story primarily follows Keith Pearson and Chris Rhodes. Keith is this anxious stoner kid who harbors unrequited feelings for Chris, the more popular girl he's paired with in biology class. When Keith faints during frog dissection, he has this premonition of all the horrible things to come. Chris, meanwhile, ends up in a relationship with a guy named Rob Fakinsani, and she contracts the bug from him. The disease manifests differently in each victim. Some get grotesque facial deformities, some grow tails, some develop a second mouth on their neck, some shed their skin like snakes. Chris's mutation causes something on her back that she tries to hide. Rob has his own visible deformities, and together they end up living in the woods with the other infected teens who have dropped out of society. Keith's mutation is apparently concealable enough that he can maintain his place in suburban life, which makes him this tragic go-between figure. He's obsessed with Chris, watching her from afar, desperately trying to prove he can take care of her. But his crush slowly transforms into something darker and more possessive. There's also Eliza, another girl Keith gets involved with. The story tracks how these relationships fracture and decay, alongside the characters' physical transformations. The murders add another layer of horror. Someone starts killing the infected teens in the woods. Bodies and body parts start appearing, decorated with broken doll limbs. The infected are so marginalized that when they disappear, nobody even reports them missing. Why Black Hole is worth the hype. So why are people so excited about this adaptation? Firstly, Black Hole has been considered unadaptable for 2 decades. The combination of graphic sexual content, body horror, violence, and teenage characters made it too risky for studios to touch. Previous attempts fell apart because no one could figure out how to handle the difficult subject matter while also justifying the budget for what would definitely be an R-rated or harder production. But Netflix's straight-to-series order suggests they're committed to doing this right. The streaming format actually works perfectly for Black Hole. The original 12 issues could translate beautifully into a limited series or 2 6-episode seasons, allowing for a faithful adaptation without having to compress everything into a 2-hour film. Secondly, Jane Schoenbrunn is genuinely the perfect person to adapt this material. Also, the themes are somehow even more relevant now than when Burns originally published the series. We're still dealing with questions about disease, otherness, social ostracization, and the cruelty of American suburbia. The metaphorical resonance of a sexually transmitted plague that turns teenagers into monsters works on so many levels. It's about AIDS, sure, but it's also about the way society treats anyone who doesn't fit the mold. What can we expect from the Netflix series? Based on what we know so far, the Netflix adaptation will focus on Chris as the main protagonist. The official logline centers her story. She's the one who contracts the bug and gets exiled to the woods. This is actually a smart choice because it gives the series a clear narrative anchor while still allowing for the ensemble feel of Burns' original work. Schoenbrunn has said they worked really hard to make I Saw the TV Glow weird and to keep their artistic vision outside the system. Given that attitude, I think we can expect the Black Hole series to push boundaries and not shy away from the source material's challenging content. Netflix won this in a competitive situation precisely because they're willing to take that risk. The body horror elements will be crucial. Burns' mutations range from subtle to absolutely grotesque, and seeing those brought to life with modern prosthetics and effects will be incredible, and probably deeply unsettling. The black and white aesthetic of the graphic novel probably won't translate directly, but I'd expect Schoenbrunn to create a specific, unsettling visual palette that captures the same stark, dreamlike quality. We don't have a release date yet, but given that the series just got greenlit in October 2025, I'd expect we're looking at a late 2026 or 2027 at the earliest for production and release. Schoenbrunn will need time to write the series, assemble a cast, and execute what will undoubtedly be a technically challenging production. The long road to adaptation. It's worth appreciating just how many times this adaptation almost happened before finally landing at Netflix. Back in 2006, Alexandra Aya was set to direct a film version for Paramount Pictures, MTV Films, and Plan B, with Neil Gaiman and Roger Avery, the Pulp Fiction co-writer, adapting the screenplay. That script apparently did not shy away from the book's difficult subject matter one iota, according to people who read it, but the project fell apart. Then David Fincher, who would have been an amazing choice, came on board in 2008. He stuck with it for a while, but eventually left to focus on his Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy. The project was revived again in 2013, with Fincher still attached, but once again, nothing came of it. In 2018, Rick Famuyiwa, who directed Dope, was announced as writing and directing a new version, but that also petered out. The fact that so many talented filmmakers tried and failed to make this happen just underscores how difficult the material is to crack. But it also means that when Schoenbrunn finally delivers this series, it's going to be something people have been waiting literally decades to see. Marvelous verdict. Why you should be excited. Look, I know we're all suffering from adaptation fatigue at this point. Every comic book, every graphic novel, every beloved property is getting the streaming treatment. But Black Hole is different. Charles Burns spent 10 years meticulously crafting this graphic novel, and it shows in every panel. The story has haunted readers for 20 years, because it taps into something primal about the teenage experience. Now it's finally getting an adaptation from a filmmaker who genuinely understands what makes it tick, who knows how to use horror as more than just scares, who can translate Burns' visual poetry into a new medium, while respecting what made the original so powerful. Jane Schoenbrunn is one of the most exciting voices in horror right now, and giving them a Netflix-sized canvas to work with on material this rich is genuinely thrilling. Let me know in the comments below if the prospect of the series interests you as well, and tell me what you would like to see in this series. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!